In the winter of 486 BC, the most powerful man in the world was dying. Darius the Great, King of Kings, Lord of the Earth, lay gasping for air in his grand palace at Persepolis. At nearly 65 years old, the great king was attempting to wage two massive wars at once. In the south, Egypt was engulfed in a bloody revolt. In the east, his foundries worked sleeplessly, forging weapons for a massive armada, meant for absolute vengeance against Greece. Darius wanted revenge for the humiliation at Marathon, and he wanted it on a scale that would break the Greek spirit forever. But his body failed him. As chaotic updates flooded the palace, a silent, deadly crisis emerged within the royal court. Who would inherit the kingdom? The Persian Empire had no strict rule of succession, and two rival princes claimed the crown. The oldest son was Artabazanes, born before Darius took the throne when his father was still a common soldier. But a younger son, Xerxes, carried an imperial pedigree no one else could match. He was the first son born in the purple during Darius's reign as king, and his mother was Atossa, the formidable, brilliant daughter of Cyrus the Great himself. Knowing his own end was near, Darius made his final, fateful decision. He bypassed his eldest son. He chose Xerxes. To understand why Xerxes triumphed in this high-stakes succession crisis, one must understand the terrifying political power of Atossa. In the Achaemenid Empire, blood was everything, but Atossa's blood was sacred. She was the living bridge between the old dynasty of Cyrus and the new administration of Darius. While Artabazanes was viewed by many as the son of a commoner, Xerxes was born in the purple, a prince raised in the unparalleled luxury of the palace, explicitly groomed from birth for absolute power. Behind the closed doors of Persepolis, court whispering campaigns were lethal. A single wrong word or misplaced alliance could mean execution by crucifixion or suffocation in ash. Yet Atossa maneuvered these court factions with masterclass precision. She ensured that when the debate reached a boiling point, the court was already primed to accept her son as the chosen leader of Ahura Mazda, the supreme Persian deity. When Darius finally drew his last breath in 486 BC, he left his son an empire at its absolute geographic peak, but one that was fundamentally unstable. The decision did not go unchallenged. Artabazanes openly argued that as the eldest son, the empire belonged to him by birthright. Factions began to form, arms were gathered in secret, and Persia teetered on the brink of a devastating civil war before the old king was even buried. Then, an unexpected ally spoke up.
Know this, my lords. Among the Greeks, the royal birthright favors the son born to the king. By this custom, Xerxes' claim is undisputed.
Demaratus, an exiled Spartan king living as a guest and political tool at the Persian court. Seizing an opportunity to curry favor with the presumptive heir, Demaratus reminded the royal council of a custom from his own Greek homeland. The true heir is not merely the oldest, but the first son born while the father wears the crown. Whether swayed by this foreign Spartan logic or simply honoring Darius's explicit dying wish, the council bowed. At roughly 35 years old, the crown was placed on Xerxes' head. He was now the king of kings, the lord of the four corners of the earth. Xerxes had not grown up expecting a smooth reign. He had spent years governing the wealthy, hyper-complex province of Babylon, learning the crushing weight of imperial management far from the center of power. He inherited a realm that stretched from the Indus River to the shores of Europe. A mosaic of 1,000 languages, dozens of gods, and endless simmering resentments. Darius had ruled this massive territory with a system of careful administration, legal codes, and cultural tolerance. Xerxes, however, would soon learn that keeping this empire from shattering required something much harder. To govern 3 million square miles, the empire relied heavily on the satrapy system. Darius had divided the territory into distinct administrative provinces, each ruled by a satrap, essentially a local king who answered only to the great king himself. These satraps collected astronomical taxes, managed localized militaries, and maintained the thousands of miles of the royal road. But this system possessed a fatal flaw. If a satrap smelled weakness or hesitation at the center of power, they possessed the immense wealth and manpower to launch an independent rebellion. When Egypt rose in open revolt during the final months of Darius's life, it wasn't just a localized riot. It was a total systemic failure of Persia's southern breadbasket. A usurper had seized power, and imperial tax revenues ceased overnight. Xerxes knew that if he did not respond with total, uncompromising violence, every other satrap from Sogdiana to Lycia would draw their swords. Almost immediately, the cracks widened. Xerxes personally took command, leading a massive army south into the harsh terrain of Egypt. He did not look for a diplomatic solution. The Persian forces crushed the Egyptian rebels with absolute, terrifying efficiency. Xerxes stripped the rebellious Egyptian temples of their vast wealth, installed his own brother, Achaemenes, as a ruthless military governor, and forced the population into state-sanctioned labor. The message traveled fast along the royal road. The new king would not tolerate weakness. The age of Darius's compromises was over. No sooner had the smoke cleared in Egypt than catastrophic word arrived from the east. Babylon, the ancient, proud crown jewel of Mesopotamia, had exploded into violence. Two pretenders, Bel-Shaimani and Shamash-Ereba, rose in quick succession, capitalizing on the transition of power to claim the ancient Babylonian throne. For Xerxes, this was deeply personal. This was the province he had governed, the people he had protected. Their rebellion was a direct insult to his capability. Xerxes marched his battle-hardened army toward the Euphrates. The siege of Babylon was brutal, and the subsequent punishment was designed to act as a psychological scar for generations to come. Xerxes ordered the city's historic, massive fortifications to be systematically torn down. The elite families who had funded the rebellion were executed, and their lands were confiscated and redistributed to Persian nobles. To ensure Babylon could never threaten his rule again, Xerxes executed a brilliant and brutal administrative stroke. He divided the massive Babylonian satrapy into two smaller, less powerful provinces, permanently fracturing their economic power base. Pointedly, Xerxes dropped King of Babylon from his official imperial titles. He was no longer a protector of their ancient traditions. He was their conqueror. The old world order was dead, secured through blood and iron. With the domestic revolts drowned in blood, Xerxes returned to Persepolis. He completed and expanded the breathtaking palace complex his father had begun, walking the same grand halls where Darius had planned his own ill-fated Greek campaigns. The memory of the humiliation at Marathon lived in every corridor, whispered by the veterans of that war. Advisors spoke endlessly of unfinished business. Behind closed doors, in Susa and Persepolis, the war for Greece was nearly stopped before it even began. Herodotus records a tense, dramatic clash of philosophies within the royal family. During the Grand War Councils, Artabanus, Xerxes' wise uncle and a veteran advisor to Darius, begged the young king to reconsider.
The sea will rise against you, my nephew. This invasion of Greece will end in disaster and ruin for Persia.
He warned Xerxes of the unpredictable, treacherous nature of the Aegean Sea, the terrifying martial stubbornness of the Greek hoplites, and the immense danger of overextending supply lines into unknown territories. The gods love to cut down the tallest trees, Artabanus cautioned, urging the king to solidify his hold on Asia instead. But another voice in the council pressed harder. Mardonius, Xerxes' cousin and one of his most ambitious generals, Mardonius had personal reasons to want revenge. He had commanded an earlier, failed expedition to Greece and hungered to become the satrap of a newly conquered European territory. Mardonius played perfectly on Xerxes' deep-seated insecurities, arguing that allowing a loose collection of minor Greek city-states to go unpunished would make the new king look weak to his millions of subjects. To leave Marathon unanswered was to invite further rebellion at home. Xerxes, caught between the caution of his father's old guard and the burning ambition of his own generation, chose the path of war. The mobilization that followed was not just a military deployment. It was a terrifying display of bureaucratic precision. 3 years in the making, Xerxes remembered that a decade earlier, a vital Persian fleet had been completely destroyed by a violent storm off the jagged cliffs of Mount Athos. He refused to let the forces of nature dictate his legacy. He ordered an engineering project that shocked the ancient world, a massive canal cut entirely through the isthmus of Mount Athos, wide enough for 2 triremes to row abreast. For 3 long years, thousands of forced laborers, under the relentless lash of Persian overseers, dug through solid rock and soil, physically altering the geography of the European continent, just so Xerxes' fleet could bypass the dangerous cape. Concurrently, vast supply depots and granaries were established along the coasts of Thrace and Macedonia to feed the incoming ocean of men. Engineers designed and executed 2 miraculous floating bridges across the Hellespont, the turbulent sea strait separating Asia from Europe. They bound hundreds of massive warships together with heavy flax and papyrus ropes when a sudden, violent storm tore the first bridges apart. Xerxes' fury revealed the terrifying scale of his ego. He did not see the storm as bad luck. He saw it as treason. He ordered the sea itself to be whipped 300 times with lashes, branded with hot irons, and had chains thrown into the water, while his heralds shouted insults at the waves, commanding the waters to submit to their imperial master. To the Greeks, this would later be told as ultimate proof of Persian hubris and madness. But to Xerxes, it was the necessary psychological theater of a king of kings, whose absolute will would not be denied by wind, wave, or God. By the spring of 480 BC, the bridges were rebuilt, and an unstoppable tide of humanity began its march across the Hellespont into Europe. It was one of the largest military forces ever assembled in human history. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, pulled from over 40 nations across the known world, moved in a suffocating canopy of spears and dust. There were Phoenician sailors, Babylonian archers, Central Asian cavalry, and at the core, the elite 10,000 Persian immortals, their spears tipped with silver and gold pomegranates. Xerxes himself traveled at the center of this massive host, riding in a grand chariot drawn by sacred Nisaean horses, surrounded by the high nobility of Persia. This invasion was no longer just a localized, punitive expedition against Athens. It had evolved into the defining act of Xerxes' entire life, the moment he would permanently step out from the massive, intimidating shadow of his father and cement his own eternal legacy. What the Greeks would later call the Second Persian Invasion had begun. But for Xerxes, standing on the European shore as his army crossed the strait, it was something far more personal. This was the ultimate crucible of his kingship. The massive empire his father and grandfather had built now rested entirely on his shoulders. The memory of the defeat at Marathon would be answered in fire, or the story of his reign would begin and end in catastrophic failure. The road south through Thessaly was uncontested. Entire Greek cities surrendered without a fight, offering earth and water, the traditional tokens of submission to Persian rule. Xerxes' fleet moved parallel to his army, a dark cloud of wood and canvas hugging the coast. The sheer psychological weights of the invasion seemed poised to win the war, before a single drop of blood was spilled on Greek soil. But history is not written purely by the size of an empire or the head count of an army. As the massive Persian war machine crawled further south, the wide plains gave way to rugged, hostile terrain. The road began to narrow, funneled tightly between steep, impassable cliffs on one side and the deep waters of the Malian Gulf on the other. The road led to a claustrophobic mountain pass, a place of hot springs and treacherous narrow tracks, a place called Thermopylae, and waiting in the shadows of that choke point was a wall of heavy bronze shields, locked spears, and 300 Spartan warriors who did not care that Xerxes called himself a god king. The young Persian king, who had sacrificed everything to claim his father's throne, was about to face the ultimate test of his life. He expected a quick surrender. What he got was a slaughter. Xerxes entered Greece to cement his legacy, but history still debates his true character. Was he a brilliant, calculated emperor forced to use brutal terror to hold a fragile empire together? Or was he a megalomaniac, driven blindly by his father's ghost? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm replying to the best arguments today. If you want to see exactly how those 300 Spartans held off hundreds of thousands of imperial troops, hit that subscribe button and click the video on your screen right now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter.